We're going to look at the back leg mechanics of pitchers. We're going to look at Chapman and deGrom and Bauer and some other guys. We're going to relate it to different movements in training and jumping. We're also going to talk about working those specific movements in training and how to get a better transfer from your training to the mound. First, we're going to look at the hinge phase and what movements happen and what joints are involved. All right, so we'll look at Chapman and we'll look at his pickup to his hinge. All right, on the right screen from the rear angle, we'll look at the pickup. All right, and when the knee gets to the top of the leg lift, all right, that's where we'll start the hinge, or he starts his hinge. And then we'll mark the belt and then we'll run it forward. Okay, so the hinge stops right before the back leg goes into internal rotation. All right, and on the left screen, you'll be able to see that better. Okay, right there, the knee starts to go into internal rotation. So this is the bottom of the hinge. Okay, and you can see that he's pretty synced up here. These are not the same pitch, but he's pretty synced up. All right, so you can also see the how far he drops. Okay, Chapman is he's what people call sitting. He sits a lot. Okay, there's a closer to a 90-degree angle in his back leg if you go hips to knee to ankle. So he's at a 99-degree angle at the bottom of his hinge. That's a fairly deep angle. Okay, you'll see other guys, Buehler included, doesn't sit as much. Okay, high velocities, different ways of doing it. All right, but you can also see at the bottom of the hinge. We'll zoom in on this. All right, watch his foot show pressure and tension. Okay, it's still on the ground, and then go to the left screen. It's still on the ground, but it's all twisted up. Okay. You can see that the heel is peeled off the ground. And what that has done has created an anchor point that the body is moving, the tissues in the body are moving around, but the bones aren't moving. So it's creating tension. And that's what allows the internal rotation of the back leg to happen quickly. Okay. That tension going this way allows the knee to go this way quicker. Okay. There's another aspect of the back leg that we'll talk about, and that's called eversion. All right. And that is when the bottom of your foot points away from you. Okay. And in the chat and video, that is eversion. Okay. You can see his bottom of his foot is pointing away from him. All right. It's tough to see in the right side because it's far away, but you can see the same thing there. All right. And what happens is the foot at the ankle everts. Okay. And that's the last movement of the ankle. And then what you'll see is the knee is continuing down, but what's driving that is the hip internal rotation. Okay, as we go down, the knee is continuing down. Okay, and you can see it in this side too. The knee is going down. Okay, so the ankle and the hip finish the end of the back hip. All right, the knee kind of is the middle ground for the hinge to originally build the pressure. All right. So we'll go through Chapman quick, and then we'll go to another guy. So the top of the leg lift, and then the hinge starts and stops. Okay, it takes a lot of strength to catch that hinge, but the better you are at decelerating that, the more benefit you're getting out of the hinge. Okay. His knee stays stationary until it goes into some extension. Okay. That knee is your balance point until the back leg starts to accelerate. Okay, and the knee drives down. All right. All right. So here we have Walker Buehler. All right. And we'll look at the same things, the hinge and then the E version of the ankle, extension of the knee, and internal rotation of the back hip. All right. So what you can see in this with Walker Buehler is at the bottom of his hinge, his heel is off the ground. Okay. And what that does is it's similar to a vertical jump or a jumping mechanic. And I'll show that with a video in a second. But it builds tension in the leg to accelerate quickly or explode in a different um, direction. So you can see he again gets into ankle E version. All right, the toes are closer to the rubber than the heel, and and then so on the knee, and then the hip. Okay, his whole leg is at an angle, including the ankle and toes. Okay, and then we'll go look at it here. Okay, you can see that his foot has gone from this to this. All right. And there's a big question on whether you push off the mound or off the rubber, or if you just internally rotate your leg down. Okay. Both movements happen, but what you're actively thinking about and trying to feel is different for everybody. Okay. But the ultimate goal of movement is the ankle needs to evert, the knee needs to extend, and the hip needs to internally rotate. All right. So, however you think about that and achieve that, it's up to you. But those movements are very important for throwing mechanics and many other movement mechanics. All right. So let's go, and then right before we go on to this jump comparison, I want you to just look at the deceleration of the back leg. Okay. As soon as it gets to this point, it is done creating force. It's all recoil and deceleration at this point. Okay. It's along for the ride. It's just floating in air. Okay. It snapped down as hard as it can. You can see the recoil through the foot into the knee, and then recoil's gone, and it's just along for the ride. Okay. So there is an end point to the back leg, and that is whenever it's done internally rotating and it's fully off the ground. So the comparison between the back leg with Walker Buehler and the heel being up and the vertical jump, you can see it in this video of Vince Carter dunking. Okay. And I got this video from 200 IQ basketball. That. All right. But you can see as his front foot is going to touch the ground, his heel is peeled up off the ground. Okay, you can see that his heel is peeled up off the ground while he's close to a 90-degree angle at the knee. And what that does is it's a tension builder. Okay, there's an anchor point around the heel that the tissues stretch around. All right. And because the mechanics are different for you're trying to go up in a vertical jump and you're trying to go forward or linear in the pitching motion, that's why the flexion of the knee angle is different, but the tension builder of the heel is the same. So if you look at the angle comparison, Buehler is at a less flexed knee angle. Okay, and again, that's because of the direction they're going. Vince Carter's trying to go up, and Bueller's trying to go towards the catcher. Okay, but that heel being up during the knee flexion state is, I'll let this Vince Carter highlight real run, but it's important for building tension in the back leg and the back hip for it to then accelerate. Okay, so now we'll move on to Bauer and we'll start talking about a couple training exercises and ideas to help transfer to the mound. Okay, there's a million things you can do. It's just you have to mimic movements. Okay, so again, we'll look at Bauer's hinge and then through his back leg, what happens. One important thing for momentum is as you hinge, you want to pay attention to dropping as your hip is going forward. Okay. And on Bauer, it looks like this. His hip goes from right there to here. And then pay attention to his knee during this whole hinge. It stays in a relative position. Okay. There. And we'll go forward. The knee stays, the hips drop, and they go forward. Okay. This is a drop down. This is a drop down and forward. Okay. And then some people just go forward. And that's kind of a drift, right? Or you're leaning, right? The drop down and forward is the tension builder of the back leg. Okay, you can see the same thing with Chapman and Buehler. You can see the heel is peeled up slightly. Okay, Bueller's is peeled up more than the other two, and Bauer's is more toward the catcher peeled up, and Bueller's is more just straight up. All right, so as you keep going, you'll see the ankle eversion right there. You see a lesser ankle eversion out of Bauer than you did the other two. Okay, he is not as everted as the other two, and again, different guys, different movements. So this is where the internal rotation of the knee starts, and it goes down, and the foot is pointing down because internal rotation. All right, and now it's along for the ride. The back leg's floating back there as the rest of the body's accelerating to, and the arm is accelerating to throw the ball. All right, the back leg has it's the beginning aspect of the motion, and it has an endpoint. So whatever it does coming up is a product of the forces you created while using it. All right, having somebody kick their leg up doesn't change the way they are using it during the throwing motion. So it's not something to focus on. It's something you want to produce. All right. So now we're going to look at deGrom. Same stuff. Back leg. All right. The right video I got from Pitching Ninja. So let's look at the left side and the hinge. Okay. Right there is the bottom of it. And then, all right. So you can see if you're looking at the heel, it's not as peeled up as the other guys. All right. And that's just a different way to do it. But you see it peels up in the next frame. All right, so there's tension and force being put into the ground. And again, you can see the internal rotation of the back knee. And then deGrom does one of the best jobs of being as extended as you can be in the back leg at internal rotation, which allows it to rotate faster. Okay, the shorter the radius of the rotation, the faster the rotation. All right, pay attention right here to his knee and watch how fast it turns down. 2 frames it turns down. All right. And that's what starts the rotational aspect of the movement. All right. And again, you'll see ankle eversion right here on the right side. Okay, it's blurry, but you can see it. And right here on the left side. All right, again, toes, heel, and then upper leg, knee, and hip. All at an angle, all extended and allowing for the linear momentum and the rotational aspect to come together. Okay. The question was asked by Tread, and a previous thing they put out was, do you push off the mound, or does your momentum carry you off the mound forward towards the catcher? And really what it is it's your momentum carrying you off, but there is a last part of your foot that pushes off the rubber. Okay, you might not actively think about it, but whenever your foot flexes and contracts into ankle eversion, there's force being put in this direction of the green arrow during ankle eversion. Okay, so again, whether you think about it or not, yes, you're pushing off the rubber and your momentum. So it's both. Okay, your momentum carries you off. You do push linear momentum and rotational aspect together, but everyone thinks about it differently, whether they actively push or actively just rotate. Whatever you do is what you do. But when you're looking strictly at the movements of it, there is a push aspect and a rotational. There is a momentum carry and a push factor. So that answers that question. So let's look at a couple exercises that can relate to these. All right, so these two exercises are good for catching a downward force and then redirecting it in a different direction. With the vertical, you're redirecting it up, and with the lateral bound, you're redirecting it laterally. Okay, that could be towards a catcher, anything in that direction. All right, so we'll play the vertical and explain where the aspects are the same. All right. So the drop, the force going down comes from gravity. Whenever you leave your toes and are completely in the air, and gravity's pulling you down, and you land on one leg to decelerate. All right. All right. So there's not a big hinge aspect to it. Okay. But it's still learning to decelerate. And there's other exercises we can do to focus on the deceleration, but learning to redirect energy is one part of the pitching mechanics. All right. So we'll go again. So in the lateral bound video, you can see that we catch the downward force and then we redirect it laterally. All right, and the knee extension and the ankle eversion are the similar movements to the pitching mechanics. All right, this negates the internal rotation of the back leg. All right, but the knee and ankle mechanics are the same. So you can see here the flex knee, like the hinge, and then you can see the slight forward angle, and then the extension of the knee, and then the E version of the foot and ankle. All right, right here. All right, so those two aspects are the same, and that's where this exercise comes in handy in transferring to the pitching motion. With the individual toe raises, you're looking to put pressure into the ground with your big toe, and you can see that with Chapman right here. Just pay attention to his foot, his right foot. As we go forward and as he hinges, you can see the tension in his shoe twisted. Okay, he's actively pushing into the ground with his toe like that, like in the exercise video. Okay, and that has to happen for him to keep that foot anchored. If he doesn't push into the ground, that foot's just going to get carried along with all the rest of his body. Okay, so that's where this exercise comes in handy, and learning to push into the ground with your toes plays a role. And the last exercise we'll look at is the landmine pull to press. And this introduces the rotational aspect into the progression. Okay, you can see in this exercise, as you pull up and you get towards your chest, your back leg starts to rotate, your back knee starts to internally rotate. Okay, and then you're extending into a straight line with the body, and you can see that the back leg is straight. And then if you look at Buehler, it's the same thing, the internal rotation of the back leg. And then pull through the arm and the extension at the end. Okay, that flows to a straight line. All right, and again, nothing's more specific than actually throwing, but to use the weight room as a benefit. Using specific movements can help translate that training and strength to the field and the mound. So, all in all, the back leg is a balancing mechanism to start, and then it's a tension builder to accelerate the rotational aspect of the body and the throwing motion, and it finishes the linear momentum component of the pitching motion.